Recording in progress.
Oh,
This meeting is
where
being recorded.
education is the heart of everything we do. And we do record our meetings in order that those who miss them can see them on YouTube or on our website for recorded credit. CarePatrol is accredited by the Alabama Board of Social Work, as well as by the Alabama Board of Nursing. And each of those boards allow us to create, credential, offer, and provide you with continuing education units. These presentations are all 1.0 hours, both for nurses and for social workers, as dictated to us by the boards. You must do an evaluation after the presentation today in order to receive your credit hour. If you're a nurse, we will post those for you within the week. If you're a social worker, the board asks that you post your own. For social workers, these hours are considered live or face-to-face because we use a password protection system with our evaluation. We give the password out at the end of the day. You must have it in order to open the evaluation. And again, you must do the evaluation in order to receive the contact hour. Now, Care Concierge is presented by CarePatrol. CarePatrol is an aging care navigation service and placement service. We help folks who are in the midst of some sort of healthcare journey or crisis or planning mode even, to understand what the options are existent in Alabama for elder care and aging care. That's what we do. We're paid like realtors. We're paid if we bring someone to a home where they move in, but we may end up working for really about 60% of our clients. We receive no commission. So it is a matter of education. It is a matter of heart. It is a matter of mission. And we're happy to be able to do this and to be able to provide these contact hours for you. Today's contact hour, I'll give you, those of you that are joining, those of you that have been with us, you know that I will provide you with the evaluation link, because I know that some of you are on the phone. And so the evaluation link is https:// www.surveymonkey.com /r/ all uppercase letters, starting with the number 9, L as in low, 9, V as in victory, D as in dog, RL. And once again, I'll read that as we still have folks joining us here this morning or this afternoon. I'm not sure which. Noon, joining us at noon. And our evaluation link is https://www.surveymonkey.com /r/9L 9 V as in victory, D as in dog, RL. That's our evaluation link, and we will get to it in about an hour. We're happy that you joined us, and we're happy to welcome again our friend and colleague, Ms. Latonya Washington, who is in my opinion, a social worker and counselor extraordinaire. And one of the arenas in which Ms. Washington practices is self-care for clinicians. And all of our topics at Care Concierge by CarePatrol are topics that were suggested by former attendees. And so many times, folks have asked for self-care, so we've gone to the guru for that information today. I hope that you will, as always, when you are with me, participate via the chat room. or by adding your voice to Ms. Washington's. To do so, you would simply move your cursor to the top or bottom of your screen. A bar will appear. The word chat is there as well as the word microphone. Click on that, and that allows you to participate. And we do count on and look forward to your participation. It's your voice that makes this all the more worthwhile for the rest of us. So without continuing to belabor the point of how much I look forward to today and want you to work with us, I'm going to introduce to you Miss Latonya Washington and her study, which is The Art of Self-Care, Strategies for Cultivating Resilience and for Compassion in Everyday Life. So Ms. Washington, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Sean. I'm so excited to be here today. And I do apologize. I was having some difficulty with my camera, but I'm excited to be here. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to spend this hour with us. Self-care is something that I'm very passionate about, and something that I think sometimes can be a bit confusing in the sense that it seems so simplistic, but it's so challenging in ways to incorporate this into everyday life. Just kind of give you a little bit of history about myself. I am a therapist, a consultant, and an advocate, of course, for self-care. I've been a licensed social worker for quite some time. I've been a social worker for about 14 years. I am currently the owner of Changing Seasons Therapy and Consulting, a completely telehealth private practice serving all of Alabama. I specialize in helping women and their families navigate life-changing transitions. That is not to the exclusion of men in the lives of the women that I serve, or men who want assistance in those areas as well. I am Gottman Couples. I'm trained in the Gottman Couples method, and I love working with couples to build and rebuild their relationships or to maintain their healthy relationships. I was fortunate enough to complete the Acceptance and Commitment Therapy Bootcamp with Dr. Stephen Hayes, the founder, in 2014. And it is an integral part of my practice. I love that ACT focuses on helping people live a life toward their values or driven by their values, not by their fears, anxieties, or depression. I am also trained in geriatrics through the UAB Geriatric Faculty Scholar Program and the Hartford Fellow in Aging Program. And I have an expertise across the continuum of healthcare and mental health. And again, I'm passionate about helping empower individuals to regain control of their lives, overcome challenges, and live the quality of life that they deserve. I also want to say happy Social Work Month to all the social workers in the audience. And I also want to say happy International Women's Month. A lot of exciting things going on this year, or this month, I should say. So let's review the objectives for today's webinar. So we're going to talk about how we define self-care, its importance in maintaining good physical, emotional, and mental health. We're going to discuss common myths associated with self-care, and we're going to debunk those myths. We're also going to provide examples of self-care activities that individuals can engage in to promote their overall well-being and reduce or eliminate stress. And I also want to encourage you all to prioritize self-care as an essential aspect of your overall health and well-being, using self-compassion as a strategy to support that. And I'm going to provide you with resources, tools, and hopefully some actionable tips that you can take away from today and move into practicing or enhancing your existing practice of self-care beyond today's presentation.
Look forward to that. We've advertised it.
Well, thank you. And again, as a reminder, as Sean said, we do want this to be an interactive and engaging presentation where you as the audience unmute and chime in when you feel compelled or when there's something that resonates with you or when you have a question. So let's move to the next slide where we talk about the importance of self-care, understanding the definition and debunking myths. So self-care is crucial to maintaining good physical and mental health, as well as emotional health. And self-care overall just looks at the activity that one does in order to take care of themselves in those domains. Self-care activities can vary from person to person, and they should be individualized and based on your interest and the things that you know that help you feel the most cared for. This can include engaging in activities such as exercise, eating a healthy diet, getting enough sleep, practicing mindfulness, engaging in activities that bring you joy and relaxation. So let's look at the next slide where we talk about the importance of self-care and understanding the definition and debunking myths further. So one of the areas that I've been studying and that I've been looking at has been related to work-related stress. A lot of the clients that I work with, whether in my therapy practice or as a consultant, express that they are dealing with a lot of stressful situations that are related to work and that those stressors are exacerbating stress in their personal lives. So according to the American Institute of Stress Workplace, the American Institute of Stress in the Workplace, 40% of workers say that their job is very or extremely stressful. 25% also view their jobs as the number one stressor in their lives. 75% believe that they have more on-the-job stress today than a generation ago. 29% of those workers also express feeling extremely stressed at work. 26% say that they were very often or often burn out or stressed by their work. So when we look at job stress, it's important to look at the factors that are associated with that, which would include health complaints, financial constraints, and family issues. The study also found that 80% of workers feel stressed on the job, and nearly half of them say that they need help in learning how to manage stress, and 42% of their coworkers need such help. 25% expressed that they have felt like screaming or shouting because of job stress. 10% expressed being concerned about an individual that they work with in terms of fearing that they could become violent. 14% of respondents expressed that they felt like hitting or physically striking a coworker in the past year but didn't. And 9% expressed being aware of an assault or violent act that has taken place in their workplace. And 18% expressed some sort of threat or verbal intimidation in the past year that they've experienced. So I want to ask the audience, are these concerns that resonate with you? Are these things that you have experienced or just had concerns about in your own work environment?
I mean, I'll start. I would think that most everyone, and a higher percentage even that they obtained, would find that the biggest stressor in their lives is their work. I mean, I know that's without question true for me, and I'm sure
Right.
it is for many, many, many people on the phone. And Ms.
Right.
Talbot says yes. Novia Wright says absolutely. Ms. Siggers says yes in the chat room.
Okay. Yeah.
Ms.
And
Walden says yes. Ms. Shaw says yes. So we're warming up, ladies. We're on the hook.
okay. Well, thank you everyone for being vulnerable and responding. And as we think about work, we spend the majority of our time at work. And so this is very alarming to know that people have to work and deal with this type of stress. So let's look at how we define self-care. So self-care can be defined as a practice of deliberately taking care of oneself through activities that promote your overall well-being and that eliminate distress. Self-care requires that you prioritize yourself, your needs, which can be challenging for some individuals, especially as we look at those in the helping professions, such as social work and nursing and other healthcare disciplines. And oftentimes, there's a level of guilt that's experienced. Sometimes it's self-imposed, and sometimes that's imposed by the environments in which we work and the attitudes toward self-care as being selfish. So it's important to understand that self-care is not selfish. It's an essential part of maintaining your physical health and mental and emotional well-being. So let's look further at some myths about self-care. There are several myths that are associated with self-care that can prevent you from engaging in self-care activities. And here are some of the most common. So, myth number one, self-care is selfish. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you don't fill your cup first, then you have nothing to pour from. If you are constantly pouring into others without replenishing yourself or without having someone who returns that, you're going to be running on empty fumes. It's as they tell us when we are on a flight, that you must first put on your oxygen mask before you attempt to take care of others, because otherwise, this is going to lead to your demise. So it's important to remember to prioritize your self care so that you're better able to care for others and fulfill your responsibilities. Myth number two, self care is indulgent. Some people view self care as taking a relaxing bath or spending time on a hobby as indulgent. And really, this is just the bare minimum of what self care should entail. Yet, engaging in the activities that you enjoy, that you may find to be relaxing, can help reduce stress and improve your overall well being. Myth number three is that self care is expensive. So, self care activities can actually come at no cost. And there are many things that you can do that are free or low cost, such as going for a walk, practicing yoga at home, or spending time in nature. Myth number four, self care takes too much time. It's time consuming. When in reality, self care activities don't have to take up a lot of your time. It can be something that you engage in a way that fits into your schedule. As a matter of fact, I always encourage my clients to think of self care as the multivitamin of your life, in the sense that it's something that you should do every day. And it can take minutes to practice self care. Sometimes the act of self care is simply allowing yourself time to take some deep breaths, which help to relax your nervous system, stretching during a break at work, or it can mean taking those dedicated breaks that oftentimes people don't allow themselves. People often work through their breaks and work through lunch, and sometimes they work well past the hours that they're required to. So, one of the barriers that has also been identified is a lack of time. So, um, and I apologize. I think this was kind of a repeat of things, but just again, looking at barriers, it could be a lack of time. Many individuals feel overwhelmed by work, family responsibilities, leaving little time for self-care activities. So I want to check in with the audience to see how many of you feel that you often set up barriers to engaging in self-care, or that your employer or other people in your lives make you feel that self-care is a luxury, not a necessity.
I'm doing that now. I need to start exercising again. And I keep telling myself, well, first I have to join the Y. And instead of just walking out the back door and down the alley and taking a walk, I'm placing these barriers really for no reason. They're not external, you know? And a
Right.
lot of people agree. Mrs. Adams, Ms. Walden, Ms. Shaw, Arteta Seeger says she often feels this way with her family. Or maybe it's with families, I'm not sure. Ms. Durza says, my kids think I shouldn't take time for myself.
Wow. Yeah, that's really
And
tough,
Miss Reddick
especially.
has raised her hand. Miss Reddick, I'm ignorant of how to help you raising your hand, but I can tell you can just unmute if you know how to do
Right.
that and start talking.
Yes, I
Right.
just wanted you to acknowledge it was okay to come off mute. I
Oh,
was just gonna say, in our culture, it's rarely heard it's okay to take care of yourself. No one is encouraging you to take care of yourself. You don't hear
Right.
that. I don't hear that often.
that's so
Right.
true. And some of our folk often feel this way, trying to juggle work, school, and house. Yes, I often feel this. Yes, with family, I meant, Miss Seeger said, her own family. Ms. Johnson says sometimes employers don't respect those boundaries as if it's not necessary. And Ms. Adams' spouse says, I have time for everyone, But here, Ms. Shaw says, family encourages me, but I feel guilty to take the time for myself. And Ms. Enda says, I've managed to put in boundaries for my self-care. So my family, thank you for pointing this out, Ms. Enda. Thank you. My family has learned to accept it. And Stephanie Dursis says, setting boundaries can be its own form of self-care. And Ms. Fordyce says, workplace often rewards poor boundaries. This is true. And overextending ourselves as if it is something that is encouraged or expected.
Yes, all of those are such huge challenges, and challenges that really, you don't deserve to experience. No one in your life that cares about you should make you feel guilty for wanting to take care of yourself. But guilt and shame, which is barrier number 2 that I identified, is often something that people experience where they're made to feel guilty for taking care of themselves. And it's something that is not normalized in American culture and in a lot of cultures in general that influence the way that we show up and the way that we live our lives. And, the fact is that employers also have a long way to go when it comes to encouraging their employees to engage in self-care. I find oftentimes that employers may preach self-care as a means for adjusting or changing your attitude toward work, saying that if you are not feeling motivated to do the work, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're maybe starting to experience burnout, that it's the employee's fault for not engaging in self-care, when in fact it's something that they're not encouraging. And oftentimes they're reinforcing negative behaviors such as overworking by allowing their employees to work stringent schedules, work an inordinate amount of overtime, when we all know that if, for instance, if you're salaried, that's really not something that a lot of employers are concerned about. However, for people who are hourly, if you're working overtime, they're probably going to call you to the carpet on that and challenge you to work only within the hours that you're expected to. And that's an unfair standard that we really need to work and advocate toward changing. And a lot of the barriers that we experience in self-care are systemic and cultural. Barrier number 3, a lack of motivation. Sometimes we can experience a lack of motivation as a barrier because, again, it's not something that's widely encouraged. And when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, it can be really hard to find the wherewithal to engage in certain activities, such as getting up and taking a walk, going to the gym, making yourself a meal that's healthy. Barrier number 4, financial constraints. Many feel that they can't afford to engage in activities that promote well-being, such as exercise classes or massage therapy. However, this is something that, again, doesn't have to be costly. If you are someone who enjoys, for instance, exercise classes, there are plenty of different options that exist for that outside of a formal membership at a gym, but also, I don't know what exists in the areas in which you all live, but for instance, here in Tuscaloosa County, we have the Park and Recreations Activity Centers where you can join for a reasonable cost. And as far as massage therapy, one of the tricks that I learned is that you can go to a school of massage therapy and receive a really great massage by a student at a fraction of the cost that you would pay going to a professional. And again, barrier number 5 identified was overworking. And again, this is often something that people feel pressure to do by their employers, or maybe you're short-staffed, maybe you have a lot of additional responsibilities that leave you with little time or energy. And so, again, a lot of these things are not incumbent on the individual alone and require the cooperation and a mind shift set for the employer. So let's talk about what self-compassion is and why it's a crucial component to self-care. Self-compassion refers to the practice of treating oneself with kindness, understanding, and acceptance, especially during a time of difficulty, struggle, or failure. Self-compassion involves acknowledging and accepting one's flaws or imperfections rather than criticizing or judging oneself harshly. So who among us would like to share whether or not this is something that you struggle with? I'll be completely forthcoming and say that I do struggle with this. And I came to realize this when I noticed that I had sometimes unrealistic expectations of others, because sometimes those high expectations and being critical of others is really a reflection of how we feel that people need to be motivated or encouraged because it's something that maybe we feel has worked for us. But there's a lot of evidence that contradicts that. So is there anyone that feels like this is something that they struggle with and care to share?
Well, I mean, I certainly do, and it's a tough topic to admit. But I wonder if, like in my case, this is probably more due to life events than anything else. But maybe that's what gets in people's way is their need to somehow make up for something in their past and work extra hard. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes. That's an excellent point, Sean. And, oftentimes that voice that we have within, I refer to that as the internal narrative. And those of you in the audience that may be social workers or therapists may be familiar with that. And essentially, this is the voice that is created by the voices of people in our lives who have maybe been really harsh or critical toward us, or who maybe had those unrealistic expectations that pushed us into people pleasing, or what's sometimes referred to as like the fawn response, which fawn, if you think about it, is like a baby deer. And just being in a very vulnerable space where you feel that you have to behave in a certain manner to avoid negative consequences such as criticism or judgment or not being enough. And so, certainly there are many underlying factors that can result in that. As we look at self-compassion, there are
Let
three
me
major.
let me read. May I interrupt you? I'm sorry. Miss
Sure.
Green had shared something, and I thought you would like to hear it. I find that I'm often harder on myself than I am on others. I made a C for the first time last semester and cried for 3 days. Poor thing.
Mhm.
But here at work, I encourage students who make poor grades and remind them that C is average. And sometimes we all struggle with certain subjects. I find it hard to extend the same grace to myself that I give to others.
Mhm.
And Ms.
Yeah.
Johnson follows up that as a social worker, she has compassion and grace for everyone, but sometimes not for herself.
Okay. Yes.
And
Well,
Ms.
thank you.
Jones is I'm sorry, Ms. Jones, we've got, you're really bringing people out, Ms. Washington. Ms. Jones says, I struggle with people pleasing, which contributes to my stress. I noticed that I am more kind to others than to myself. I wonder, y'all, how many of us could say that?
Right. Yeah. And, thank you to each one of you who shared your experiences, struggling with this. And you're not alone in that. And quite often, those attracted to professions in healthcare, mental health, and helping professions in general, if you will, are people who are very sensitive to the needs of other people. Like, we're learning more about highly sensitive personalities, and whereas that can be a great strength, and it means that you have a lot of emotional intelligence and the ability to tap into what other people are experiencing, which allows you to be compassionate toward them. It means that sometimes you're so sensitive to that and focused on that it's to the distraction of paying attention to your own needs and how to show up for yourself. That's why it's so important for us to look at self-compassion. And one of the things that I like about self-compassion, as opposed to focusing on self-confidence, is that self-compassion says that as a human being, I am enough. A lot of times when we look at self-confidence, it's tied to performative behaviors and activities that are based on acceptance by other people versus self-acceptance. And so self-compassion really emphasizes self-kindness, being kind and understanding and gentle with yourself during difficult times rather than being self-critical or judgmental. demonstrating that behavior that you would demonstrate to others during moments like that, and not just reserving it as something that you do or offer to others. It also recognizes that, you know, there's a commonality in humanity, that we all struggle and none of us is perfect. And this is a universal experience. And that helps us to not feel isolated or alone as we're trying to navigate these difficult things. And it also requires being present and aware of the thoughts that you have toward yourself, the emotions that you feel during moments of difficulty or defeat, without judgment or avoidance of those uncomfortable feelings. So let's look further at the role of self-compassion in self-care. So these are very interconnected concepts, and I just wanted to share some ways that we can enhance our ability to engage in self-care through the use of self-compassion. And so this involves taking a look at how we judge ourselves and trying to move toward less self-judgment. When we're critical of ourselves, it often results in discouragement from engaging in self-care because we don't feel worthy. We don't feel that we deserve it or that we can be successful in taking care of ourselves in that way. It can often be something, again, that is influenced by external factors or that internal narrative that is often created when we've experienced critical, harsh judgment from others that we care about. Self-compassion can help reduce that self-judgment and negative talk, allowing us to approach self-care activities with a more positive mindset. It can also increase our motivation to care for ourselves. We need to recognize the importance of caring for ourselves and make that a priority so that when we're struggling with motivation, we can commit to the action until the motivation starts to match our actions and behaviors. And ultimately, we need to remember that we are deserving of self-care and that it is a necessary requirement for our well-being. Self-compassion also increases our ability to be resilient. It can help us overcome setbacks and challenges, which can be important in maintaining consistent self-care. When we're self-compassionate, we're more likely to approach setbacks with a growth mindset, looking at that as an opportunity to learn and to move forward differently. And we can also, again, commit to prioritizing self-care, even in difficult times or times when we feel that there are other things that are competing with self-care as a priority. Improved mindfulness. Mindfulness is such an important component of self-compassion and self-care. When we practice self-compassion, we're more likely to approach our thoughts and emotions with curiosity and non-judgment, which can help us engage in self-care activities in a mindful way without giving in to the distractions that often come up in daily life, and with intentionality. So I want us to take a moment to do this exercise. It's the self-compassionate friend exercise. So one of the foremost authorities on self-compassion is Dr. Kristen Neff. And she says, with self-compassion, we give ourselves the same kindness and care we'd give to a good friend. So I want us all to take a moment to think of something that we're currently struggling with when it comes to self-care or managing stress in our lives. And then I want you to imagine that it's not you, it's your best friend who's telling you about the struggle instead. What would you tell them? And then I want you to take a moment to rewrite whatever it is that you would say to them as a form of self-compassion and affirmation to yourself. So let's take about 5 minutes to do this. And if you want to unmute and share this verbally, or if you want to share in the chat, I welcome you to do that.
So again, we're to think of something going on in our life currently that's causing us stress. And then imagine it's not us, but our friend, our best friend. And then say to ourselves what we would say to that friend.
Yes, perfect.
Finding it hard to pick just one.
It can be.
Stress, I mean, not friend.
So maybe for the purpose of this exercise, maybe the thing that you feel would be the most simplistic.
You have your own example?
You're really putting me on the spot today, aren't you? Wow, let me think about that.
I'm deflecting.
That's okay. Let's see.
Oh, Miss Jones has a comment. She says she would tell her friend, it is okay to do what is best for you. It is okay for you to be happy. That's interesting. I'm sorry you're going through something, Miss Jones. Ms. Adams says you cannot help others if you are not taking care of yourself. Learn how to say no and feel good about it.
I really like both of those examples. I mean, those are things that are very compassionate, and it's giving yourself the permission to know that you deserve to be happy and to deserve that you deserve to have boundaries. And those are some really difficult concepts that a lot of people struggle with. And, I think for me, I think boundaries is definitely one. Boundaries with time and ensuring that I'm using my time in a way that is not only productive, but a time that allows me to experience joy. I've been reading this book called The Art of Gathering, and the author really talks about being mindful of how we spend our time and being purposeful about the reasons that we come together, whether it be with family, with friends, with colleagues. And one of the things that I'm trying to commit to this year is to invest in experiences and activities and travel that have nothing to do with work. Because so often I find it very easy to, pull out my credit card and, pay for, a retreat that sounds really good and that has some maybe leisure activities as a part of the agenda. But again, it's tied to work. And so sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to let go and just to enjoy. And so I think what I would tell my friend, and then what I would tell myself in turn, is that you deserve to have experiences that allow you to have fun, to be free, and to experience joy without it being connected to work.
That's interesting. Miss, I've gotten behind here. Let me catch up with the chat room. Miss Walden said, I think she mimicked you or parroted you saying you can't pour from an empty cup. Miss Alexander says she struggles with too much on her plate and is a people pleaser. Miss Adams says you can't, I think I've said this before. Miss Henry, you're new to us, Miss Henry. Thank you. Take time for yourself and it will be okay. Miss Smith says, one, I am taking on too much and I'm stretching myself thin. Two, I would tell my friend, no is a complete sentence. It's okay to delegate or even refuse to take on extra things that you would take away from your peace. It's okay to say no, and it's okay to put yourself in a place to reject anything that affects your boundaries. And three, no really is a complete sentence. It isn't helpful to spread yourself thin. If you're struggling, it won't help you or anyone else. If you are frustrated or upset, you cannot do it all. You must balance your desire to help others and help your own self. So things that make you happy. And then we have another coming up. Miss Johnson says, I am learning that no is a complete sentence. That's great. It's been difficult for me to say no. I just go along for fear of making others uncomfortable or them not liking the response of no.
Wow. Yes, that, thank you again, all of you, for sharing that. No being a complete sentence is something that I know a lot of people struggle with. I struggle with that. And I forget who said this, but one of the things that, I talk to the clients about when they're expressing difficulty around this is that, yes, no is a complete sentence. But one thing that I find that helps me and that sometimes helps others is recognizing that even when you're saying yes, you're still saying no, but you're saying no to yourself. And so sometimes we have to sit with the discomfort of just saying no in order to avoid betraying ourselves in these moments, because you could be saying yes to someone else and no to an opportunity that may come along that you're more excited about. Or you could be saying yes to other people to your own detriment, so that it then takes away from your ability to engage in whatever activity that you may enjoy, even if it's just sitting at home and being at peace and not feeling compelled to perform or engage in these activities that only drain you or make you feel guilty and resentful in the end.
That's what Ms. Talbert says. Do what you find relaxing, not what others find relaxing or fun. For example, I like traveling, whether it is flying, driving, cruising, etc. Most of the people I go with want to go on excursions, bungee jumping, parasailing, etc. I just simply like relaxing on the beach. And Ms. Henry, I'm sure, would comment to something you said. Ms. Washington said exactly.
Okay.
And just so you know, we have 15 minutes, and I know this is probably have another 20 slides.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. So just quickly, let's look at some self-compassion affirmations that could further help you support yourself in prioritizing yourself and self-care. I deserve to prioritize my own well-being, and it's okay to take time for myself. Self-care is not a luxury, but a necessity for my physical, mental, and emotional health. I choose to make it a priority. I am worthy of love and compassion, including from myself. I will treat myself with kindness and understanding as I work towards better self-care. I acknowledge that taking care of myself is not selfish, but an act of self-love and self-respect. I will make self-care a priority and allow myself to receive the care and support that I need. So whether it be taking from this example or the ones that were shared today, or from whatever you came up with in doing the exercise, I encourage you to take that affirmation and put it somewhere that you can see it every day, so that you can remind yourself that you are a priority and that self-care is not a luxury, but something that's necessary for your overall well-being and health. So let's look at self-care and self-compassion as it relates to wellness. So wellness is considered an optimal state of well-being. And this is not to mean in the absence of illness or the absence of, any sort of physical or mental health concern. And it's something that's achieved through conscious choices and actions. This means that it's something that you have control over. It involves a holistic approach to health that encompasses physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Wellness is a dynamic and evolving process that requires ongoing effort and attention. So there are 8 domains of wellness, and we'll quickly review what those domains are, and then we'll get into ways that you can practice self-compassion in each of those domains. So physical health, which is of course dealing with maintaining a healthy body, and you can do this through ensuring that you exercise or that you're getting in some sort of movement every day, that you're partaking in proper nutrition, that you're hydrating yourself, and that you're getting enough sleep or rest. Emotional health, which can involve learning how to manage your stress and emotions in a healthy way, developing healthy coping mechanisms, and seeking support when needed, as well as engaging in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Mental health is a crucial component of wellness as we look at it. And this involves maintaining a positive mindset, learning how to cope with distress and anxiety, seeking support in terms of professional means, as well as being able to rely on those that you trust that are closest to you, and engaging in activities that promote mental clarity and well-being. The fourth domain is spiritual health, and this goes far beyond anything religious in nature. It really involves connecting to a deeper sense of self, understanding your life's meaning and purpose, engaging in things that you feel that contribute to that, and engaging in any practices that you feel are crucial to your spiritual development and growth. Surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals and finding ways to connect with nature. Number 5, occupational health. This involves finding satisfaction and fulfillment in your work, setting boundaries at work, as someone pointed out earlier, setting boundaries between work and your personal life, taking breaks when needed, and finding ways to increase your overall job satisfaction. I'm actually going to replace job with career, because I encourage people to not look at your job as the end all be all. Like, you have to think bigger than that, and you have to recognize that just because you're unhappy in one job doesn't mean that you'll never be happy in your career. And so sometimes the thing that you can do in your best interest of job satisfaction or career satisfaction and occupational health is determining if maybe there's a transition or a shift that needs to happen. Maybe it's not your job per se or your career per se. Maybe it's just the job and the environment in which you work. And we'll talk about environmental health as well. Social health. Building and maintaining positive connections with others is crucial. Being able to have people that you feel safe with emotionally and mentally that can offer you support when you're going through hard times. Being able to maintain healthy boundaries with others and engaging in activities that promote social connection. Number 7, intellectual health. Engaging in activities that you find to be stimulating and challenging, mentally pursuing new activities, new hobbies, interests, reading, and engaging in stimulating conversations. Number 8, environmental health. And this again goes back to looking at your surroundings and looking at ways that you engage with the environment, ways that you can reduce your carbon footprint, spend time with nature, and find more sustainable ways of living your daily life. So let's look at practical ways to practice self-care in each dimension. So with physical health, again, it can be exercise, and you want to find something that you love. So if you know that you don't enjoy being indoors, joining a gym may not be the best plan for you. It may be that you want to find, a way to be physical by walking, or maybe you enjoy hiking or running. Maybe you would enjoy yoga or dancing, healthy eating. So prioritizing a balanced diet, and not only just eating in a way that we normally think of as healthy, but eating in a way that that supports your health needs. So if you know, for instance, that you are, diabetic, or that you have hypertension, you want to think along the lines of eating in a way that supports you and supports being able to maintain the most healthy quality of life despite those conditions. Adequate rest. I can't stress enough the importance of making sure that you get enough sleep. So even though research says 7 to 8 hours, certainly you want to think about the number of hours that it takes for you to feel rested. And you also want to practice good sleep hygiene, making sure that, your environment is conducive to good sleep. For, most people, according to evidence, that is an environment that's cool, that's dark, and that's devoid of distractions such as TVs, devices, and ideally you should not watch TV or use any device with that blue light, within 30 minutes of preparing for bed. Emotional health, this is being able to recognize what you're feeling, checking in with yourself, understanding your emotions, and having strategies for managing those emotions so they don't become overwhelming, or so that you're not suppressing them in ways that are unhealthy for you. So it could be practicing mindfulness, journaling, or even going to therapy to learn from a professional how to manage and process those emotions. Developing healthy coping mechanisms, identifying ways to maintain and manage your life despite experiencing distress, engaging in deep breathing practices, meditation, spending time in nature, seeking support by connecting with friends, family, or a therapist to talk about your emotions and struggles. Mental health, making sure that you maintain a positive mindset. And this can be something that's strengthened by engaging in the practice of using positive affirmations and challenging any negative self-talk that you may have. It can also, again, involve, deep breathing practice, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation is an exercise that can often be helpful with managing stress and anxiety, seeking support, spiritual health, could be engaging in the practice of meditation, prayer, or any other activity that's meaningful and purposeful to you. And engaging in this as an individual, as well as connecting to a community or group that shares your spiritual beliefs. Okay, occupational health, examples could be, setting boundaries, again, between your work and personal life to prevent burnout. This could be, making sure that you don't take work home with you, making sure that you are not checking emails or responding to calls or text messages during hours outside of work, taking the breaks that you're given throughout the day, or creating the space and the time to take breaks to recharge. Social health, building positive relationships with friends or family members, or enhancing those relationships, and even maintaining healthy boundaries within those relationships and making sure that you're communicating what it is that you need and expect clearly. Intellectual health, staying curious, remaining open to new experiences, whether it be experiences gained or enhanced by reading, writing, learning a new skill, traveling. Environmental health, it could be spending more time outside. It could be going on hikes. It could be traveling and changing your surroundings. It could be making sure that your office environment is conducive to an environment that is supporting your mental health and well-being. So an example of checking in with yourself using self-compassionate self-care would be asking yourself some of the following questions. How am I feeling today, both physically and emotionally? What thoughts or feelings are present in my mind right now? How am I reacting to them? Am I being kind and compassionate to myself, or am I criticizing or judging myself harshly? What are some things that I can do today to take care of myself physically, mentally, and emotionally? And so this is something that, I encourage you to do, maybe later today, or, when you receive the slide deck. And, for the sake of time, I'll just review it quickly. So this is just an exercise that helps you to explore ways that you can create a self-care plan using self-compassion and wellness principles. So you'll take a moment to reflect on your current self-care practices. You'll write them down, maybe one or two things that you're currently doing regularly to take care of yourself. You'll reflect on self-talk when you engage in these self-care practices. You'll explore whether or not you criticize yourself for taking time off, or if you allow yourself to fully enjoy and embrace and appreciate the activities that you're engaging in. You also identify new self-care practices that you may wish to incorporate into your routine. And you'll also reflect on how you can be kinder and more gentle with yourself, recognizing that you're not alone in needing self-care, and approaching the activity with a sense of present moment awareness. And then I also shared some resources that may be helpful to you as you continue to cultivate and enhance your self-care and resilience. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Kristen Neff, who has a wonderful website that has a lot of different activities. One of my favorite guided meditations that she offers is the self-compassionate breaks, which are about 5-minute meditations. One to consider if you're experiencing a lot of difficult emotions, or maybe you're having a really tough day, is the tender self-compassion break. It's only 5 minutes. Deb Dana, who is a clinical social worker and expert on polyvagal theory, has a wonderful website full of resources about how to self-regulate or how to manage and cope with difficult emotions. There's also a link to a virtual calm room, which has a lot of different activities for mindfulness or meditation. The University of Buffalo School of Social Work has a great website with lots of resources for self-care. And then I also have the link to a newsletter that I've been publishing on LinkedIn. It's called Juggling and All, Juggling and All, Work-Life Wins. It's something that I publish bi-weekly on LinkedIn, and I welcome you to subscribe if you would like to continue this journey with me. And last but not least, I wanted to make you all aware of a 30-day self-care challenge that I'll be doing from March 20th to April 20th. The significance of this is that March 20th is the first day of spring. And so I want us to look at this as a means of self-renewal, as we often look at springtime as a time of renewal. I will be sharing practical tips daily, and this will also create a community for support, shared resources, and accountability, and will also include a weekly live check-in and coaching. And if you're interested, please note that on your evaluation, and that will give me permission to use your email address to notify you when this happens and to enroll you in this challenge. So I know that we're at time, but if there are any questions or concerns, about anything that we talked about today, I'm more than happy to stay a few moments if that's okay with you, Sean.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll encourage everyone who's still with us to do this 30-day self-care challenge, as Ms. Washington has offered to come back in 30 days, thereabouts, pending the dates. And we'll have a sort of follow-up session on this. Miss Alexander's asking if there's a fee.
No
fee to the 30-day challenge. The challenge is for you to better yourself, and adding expense to that would not help, I'm sure. A lot of thank yous. Great presentation from Monica Jones. Thank you, Anna Clardy. Thank you, Latonya, from Miss Siggers. This was awesome from Miss Johnson. So I do want to encourage y'all to do the challenge. We'll put it in our email to you with your certificate to remind you. And then I've given, so that you know, the password is 203020 203020, meaning the 30-day challenge starts March 20th. It lasts for 30 days and it concludes on April 20th. So the password is 203020. And that is it for today. Any other questions, y'all? Ms. Towns is looking forward to the information. Ms. Talbot says, awesome presentation. Ms. Durza says she would love to do the challenge. Ms. Fordyce says, thank you very much. Excellent. And Ms. Washington says to you all, thank you. Remember to make yourself a priority because you deserve to live your best life. Let's end on that. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Join us Friday. We'll have, is it aging or is it dementia? And we look forward to seeing you then. Have a great week.